Hello friends out there, backers of PinBox. Robert Ham here with Ham Camera. Today I'm going to share with you how you build PinBox. This is really great and exciting, and your build time may be as upward as 1 hour. So let's dig right into it. When you look at your PinBox, you're going to lay out your materials that you get. Then you're going to have some things you're going to need that aren't supplied, such as your glues. Now I'm going to use various different types of glue here just because of the method I prefer, but you can use super glue for all of this or some other type of very quick drying glue. I would not suggest using double-sided tape for the entire build, although you could, it just would not be stable. Double-sided tape will be helpful for some parts later. However, the preferred method to build is to use a form of white glue, a form of 1-minute bond, very fast, quick-drying epoxy type of glue, a super glue type of glue or a crazy glue, and then an instant tack type of glue. Now, these are just the preferred methods, so pick your own. Anything that can adhere will probably do you a great job. Okay, let's get right into it. First of all, you see all of your pieces laid out. There are 20 pieces to make PinBox, including the aperture. This does not have the hardware that comes with it for the winding keys. That'll be at the end. You're going to notice some pieces. Let's talk about nomenclature. The black pieces are all the interior pieces. Each part of these craft board that you get are going to be photo opaque, so you don't have to worry about light coming through. The reason for choosing brown craft board is because they're exterior pieces, and for those who may want to have just a plain brown craft board, it just looks nicer in my opinion. Although black looks great as well, they are all photo opaque. This build is going to require you to be precise but not perfect, and so if you do mess up this build, just use the included blueprint in order to run off another copy of PinBox. Cut it out with a scoring knife or a Cricut machine or a Brother print and score, and then make another one. Or contact me and I'll help you through it. I'm really active over there on Instagram, so I'll see you soon. Okay, so let's continue our nomenclature. The orange or the corrugated cardboard or the craft board pieces on the outside happen to be our top and bottom plate. They will be used interchangeably. This long piece with the slits over here to the side and the circle in the center of it, that will be our aperture housing. We're going to stitch our shutter through it with tabs. You're going to see some reinforcement top and bottom plates that go into your top plate and bottom plate. On the inside, the little piece that's black at the top right here that kind of looks like a comb in a little ways, that is your camera Obscura housing. The piece directly below it is your actual main body, and then you're going to have reinforcements for the main body depending on which side you look at. If you guys hear birds in the background, I've got bats in my belfry, so it's just the way that it is. Let's move on along. If you did happen to get a kit that comes skinned, this is what it would look like. There is no way that you can put this together wrong. Even if you fold something backwards, it all works the exact same way. The camera has no up or down. Okay, moving on along, let's go ahead and just look at the two different types of pieces. You've got 5 support members, some fat ones and some skinny ones. Go ahead and grab the 3 skinny ones. When you see the 3 skinny ones, I've got them on the table behind me. You'll notice that the camera Obscura housing has some score lines in it. There's score lines all throughout your project. They will help you fold and act as guide marks for gluing. So let's go ahead and get our glue set up. As you can see, we're going to put these 3 pieces onto the camera Obscura housing as a reinforcement. You'll notice that of these 3 pieces, the center piece is the shortest. The 2 longer ones go on the outside. Continuing forward, I just used some white glue and I put 2 little lines of white glue down on the edge that does not have the comb facing. You want the slots to be away from where you're going to put these together, and then you can get a little closer detail. I get them close to the edge, nice and tight with where my thumb is. Now, once you've done that to all 3, you'll notice that the pieces, when using white glue, which takes a while, about 10 minutes to dry in this instance, you're going to notice that they kind of flutter up a little bit and warp and wobble. Go ahead and grab yourself a rock and slam it down on a glass table. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that, but don't put your rock down or something heavy. I use a cutting board with a can sometimes on top of it, and that will keep your pieces in place. Just make sure not to shift them. Okay, guys, that is it for constructing the camera Obscura housing. Let's move on to the main body. When we look at the main body, we see that there are 5 pieces right here, 1 main body piece and 4 reinforcements. We're going to go ahead and line up the pieces so that the reinforcements match up with where they go. the slit to the slit, the box to the box. We're also going to put the bottom, the part that has the little flaps, towards the top of the page, or the up position. That will become our bottom, but it'll be easier to put it together this way. We're going to go around here and we're going to attach our pinhole, and we're just going to put this white glue on. Now, the reason I like to work with white glue is because white glue just takes a longer time, gives you more working time. You've got about 3 or 4 minutes before it begins to set up. So we're going to put our pinhole down right there, and you can see where we've got our reinforcements will go over top. Before we put the reinforcement, turn over the camera housing to make sure that your pinhole will be centered in the little square on the outside. So it doesn't have to be perfect right here, but just make sure you get it in the hole properly right there so that it's nice and centered. Okay. When we turn it back over, you're then going to once again place your reinforcement pieces on and line them up nicely. Now, don't do what I did for this photo. For whatever reason, on the reinforcement part where the pinhole is, I used the back. For whatever reason, I should have used the front of it, because had I done so, there are 2 little lines that are score lines, not for folding, but for guidance when putting your camera Obscura on. And that's that. And don't worry, your internet connection didn't go out for some reason. I took a blurry photo in my time-lapse app when I was doing this, just how it was. But we'll continue. That is it for your main body construction. We will begin putting it together, but you've laminated it properly now. Let's go ahead and look at our aperture. Okay, this is going to be our aperture assembly. Notice it's made of a very wide piece with 4 slits and a hole, and it's also made up of a long strip with a square in it. That's your shutter, and 4 tabs. Let's go ahead and look at that a little closer. There you go. We're going to grab our aperture housing and our shutter, and we're going to go ahead and begin weaving them through. And I like to do it in such a way that the slack, the longest part of the aperture or of the shutter stick, is where my thumb is. So put the short side to the right, and that's going to allow you to weave it down, then up and across, then down and up and across. We just do that twice. The nice part is this is chipboard and paper material. You will be able to bend it through. It will be a snug fit, and everything will look nice once you get that going on. If you turn it over, you can see how we've done that. We've just woven it through. Now, once we get it open, we're going to position the square over top of the circle so that the right tab only has a little bit of space left. You can see that. That's our open position. And we're going to bend it up, as you can see right there. The reason we bend it up is because we're going to put some glue. This is where the fast setting glue comes into play, on the tab, and then we're going to put it into position and press the little tab down so that it glues on instantly. We need it to glue quickly because we don't want to hold this for 10 minutes. We won't need a lot, but we'll do the same to the front of it once again, and then put our little tab on. As you can see, the tab is on right there, and I have pulled it out a little bit. So I pulled my tab over to the right so that the box is now underneath the right slit. Okay, so by doing that allows me to make sure that I've got room on the left side where my thumb is to bend that tab up and have proper placement for my additional tabs like we did. And we'll repeat that process. Put a little piece of glue, press it down until we're done. Now we've got the shutter woven through, and we also have the tabs, 2 tabs on each side of the shutter. Great, we're done. We're going to go ahead and put that up, and now we're going to move back to our camera Obscura. This should be done with its drying process right now. Let's go right ahead and pick it up. It looks good. Everything's nice and flat, as you can see. Look how that looks right there. There's little spaces in between the score lines. It's going to also give strength and help you compress when we fold this. We're going to fold all the flaps on the back edge in towards the score lines, towards us. We're then going to begin folding into a box shape. Try to get good 90-degree angles here. This is important. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but it needs to look square. As long as it looks pretty good square to you, you're good to go. No glue's been applied yet, so we're going to go ahead and do that now. We take 1 little drop of fast drying glue, the instant glue, and we position us into a 90-degree angle and make the fold. And then you can see we've got a nice angle right there. Notice how it does not need to match up. The overlap does not match up directly with the extreme edge. Make sure you don't worry too much about that. It just folds over to a 90-degree angle. Okay, and then we're going to do the same to the other side. And once we have that done, you'll notice we've got a nice looking box. Here we can see on the inside, once again, this is the outside of the box. We've folded our flaps down. So we've made this U shape, and it should be roughly square that you guys can see. We're going to go ahead now and bend the feet inside. Now these won't glue to anything, but we are going to bend them to the inside. Okay, now let's go ahead and put that Obscura down and pick up our main body housing. We're going to begin folding that now, and this is easy, just follow me through. Flip it over and inspect to make sure that everything's flat and nicely positioned. You don't want it to still be wet if you were using white glue. If you were using instant glue, then you would not have had to wait at all. It would have dried instantly. Continuing forward, we're going to bend all of our bottom flaps up, just like this. That's going to help us get our positioning here in just a moment. Now, we're going to do a dry fit. We're not gluing anything right now. We're just taking the camera Obscura and placing it onto the part where the pinhole is, and we're going to align it into the center. Now, once again, had I not folded my piece backwards, originally I would have had 2 score lines down the center, which would have told me where the far left and right limits for the camera Obscura housing would be. You don't make my mistake, okay? But that's okay. Even if you do, don't worry about it because it's real easy to put together. Now here's where I like to use double-sided tape. However, you could choose super glue. You're going to need something that glues fast, but super glue sometimes glues so fast it doesn't work for me. I like double-sided tape because it's repositionable. This is a piece that's not going to move around a lot once it's put together, so the double-sided tape will do well. Of course, you could use regular old white glue if you wanted to and clothespins to hold it together for about an hour while it dries. I suggest tape. And once we get that, notice I haven't taken the backing off. I'm just looking at the fitting. This is my final dry fit. Take the back pieces off, and there will be some exposed tape. Don't worry about that. That will not hurt your image. Just go ahead and press it in. Once we've got it pressed in, we're going to begin folding the box around the cartridge. Notice we have not messed with the feet yet. We'll tape them in here in just a moment, but we need to get these pieces to fold around the camera Obscura first so we can see just how nicely the fit will be finalized at the feet. Now let's talk about the feet for a second. I'm going to go ahead and use double-sided tape again, and this is because, once again, it is repositionable. The feet, when you fold this final plane up to meet the feet, this is your last time to adjust any part of your camera Obscura housing, and you're going to want to make sure that you do it really carefully. So dry fit it first with some double-sided tape, but if you're feeling frisky, hey, go ahead and use super glue or something. Take the feet off, the double-sided tape off, and then press it forward, and it should look like this. Real nice. Seat's nice and flat. Notice how the line at the top of the camera Obscura meets the front of the body housing. It looks good. Even looking down from the top, everything's looking real nice. Okay, great. What we're going to do now is take a couple of drops of very fast super glue, and we're going to place it along the crescent arc of the right limit, or the right side of the camera when you're holding it, this piece right here, and we're going to bend that around. And when we do, we're going to press it into place. Okay, it's kind of hard to do. I'm holding and taking these photos, but you can see how we get this nice square down here. Don't worry about the sides of the box. The top of the box may look like it's flaring outwards. It won't be. As soon as we use the other pieces that structurally hold the box together, the shape will maintain itself. It'll form properly. Just make sure that when you're putting the the glue on down here, that you get a nice 90-degree angle and not some kind of skewed angle or obtuse angle. You don't want that. Okay. Moving on along, we're going to do the same to the other side, just a little bit of glue down there. We continue, and here you can very easily see that we've got a nice, we've got a nice 90-degree angle right there. We've got one right here, and we're going to continue. Now this is gluing. This is another shot so that you can see how all of this is coming together very well. And you guys can give me a high five in the comments below for my single-handed dexterity holding and folding this stuff. Now, when we get to wrap the back plate around, the part that's going to actually act as our pressure plate for the film, as well as have a slit so that we can see which film frame advance we're on, you will see a very small 1/16 of an inch overhang. This is very important. You want to bend that far extremity in towards the camera like this. Bending it in towards the camera is going to give you the little hook ledge you need in order to put the rest of the camera together once we fold it up. Now, as we've got that there, we're going to add a line of glue. This is the quick glue to the entire piece. We're going to bring that piece together as folding it inwards now so that it goes behind the other side. So this goes folded in. Notice that the seam it goes into on the inside edge of the right side film holder, okay? It does not go on the outside. Notice it's on the inside. And when we do, it makes an absolutely excellent small seam. Now, you may have to go ahead and use a straight edge or something to help you hold this down against something hard, or use your fingers to kind of press it together. But obviously, it's a glue. You're going to need to apply some pressure like I'm doing at the top, but along the entire seam right there. Great. Look at that. When we're done, check this out. Looking really good. Here's a couple different angles. You can see our flap. Okay, we're going to add some glue to the flap. This is the bottom flap for the base of the PinBox, and now we're going to fold that down. Now, don't worry about any of these holes not lining up perfectly. They won't, and that's okay. Remember, PinBox is made so that anybody can put it together, so there are design choices made here that are going to be very helpful. One of the things that we want to use mechanically is friction. And so by putting these circles slightly offset and recognizing that throughout the build process, the bottom plate for most users will be slightly offset, that's going to allow your winding key to actually have tension when it sticks in, because it's going to provide some friction force fit to it, and you're going to enjoy that later. If it doesn't make sense now, don't worry, my friends. Okay, continuing on along, we're now going to put on the final part of the camera, which is going to be the aperture housing. Okay, now that we're up to the aperture housing, you can see the front of PinBox. That's the top part, the aperture housing. We're going to do a dry fit for the aperture housing on top of PinBox. As you can see, we're placing it on top there. And then I'm just going to bend and fold the edges around the sides. And I do that by allowing that pressure just to push it down. Now, we don't need a crease right now. Don't worry about that. Just fold it around on each side. There will be some score marks on the back of this if you do not have the wrap like I've got installed. If you put the wrap on, then that will cover up the score marks, but don't worry, they're easy to find, just like you see right there. Once they're pressed into place, you can then pull the aperture housing off and do an actual score line. You can just press fit it nicely. You can crease that line. Once we do that, we put it back on. We're looking at it. We put some glue all around, staying away from where the shutter slide is, but put some nice, this is the 1 minute set glue. It's a very fast glue. And we place it on, and then we put it on both the front and sides so that we can put the top of it together. So you do it to the left and right sides as we're going through, and then we just press it down. Okay, now it's put together. Look at that. Looks good. The aperture slides properly. Now we're going to move on to forming the top and bottom plate. Now these pieces right here will be formed individually. We're going to use white glue. I strongly suggest white glue with this because you have time with white glue. The set time is so long that you've got time to go back and press fit so that it fits nicely. If you use a fast glue that dries too quickly, you may not get the tolerances that you want, and you'll see that in a moment. Let's go ahead and place these two down so you can see. Actually, let's talk about this. You've got score lines on here. We're going to fold all those score lines for each one and put it on. So let's get to it. We're going to fold the top over, and one more time we're going to fold it. We're going to do the same to the other side. We're going to let that go free. We're going to fold it all over. So now each and every one have been folded, as you can see here. Okay, what we're going to do is now we're going to go and put white glue in this area. Notice I put it in the top score line right there, and I put it in a squiggly little pattern all across the fold that's going to fold in on itself closest to the actual center line. And then I'm going to position this. This takes a little, it's kind of tricky. What you want to do is position it so that the top fold of one side wraps around the little arms that you see bending in right there. Don't worry, this is going to pop up, but stay roughly in place when you let go. We're going to do that to the other side as well so that we can fold the box pieces in It will not stick for any length of time just yet. Don't worry about that. Go ahead and fold the box ends together, and now you have this top that's got a pushing out center line. That's okay. We're going to dry fit this onto the camera. This will make up the bottom plate, so put this on the bottom first. And when you do, you're going to push it up, and then you're going to press fit the little side keys in. See how I'm doing it there with my index and forefinger? I'm pressing those little pieces together so that they don't stick out like that. The reason that we can do this is because we're using white glue, so we can push these in together, and it works even better when you're using both hands, unlike me. Okay, now you can see how I'm kind of holding it there. This will take a few minutes. I like to put a rubber band on it and allow it to dry that way. Now, once we get a good look, we're going to continue and we're going to move on to the next part, which will be the top piece. We're going to do the exact same thing we did before with the squiggles of lines and the glue. We're folding it over, holding it. We've got our box made. Now we've got our box top. We're going to go ahead and press our box top on and press fit the box top as well. When I put this together, I like to make sure that I put my glue on the bottom box lid when I've got it like this, and when I press fit it together after it fits properly, I actually glue the bottom plate onto the bottom of the camera so it will never come off again. I would suggest you do that as well. It adds quite a bit of structure, strength to the camera. Also, it works really well. Okay, now let's look at the camera. Where were we? We were putting our box lid together. We've got it pressed up. Okay, great. So now we're going to load some film. Check this out, guys. You're going to like this. It's time to load some film. We've let the camera dry now for probably 30 minutes, and it's ready to put film in it. You could actually do this if you have a spare canister right away in order to help tighten it, and, use the pressure. But now looking at the top, you see we've got some film, just a raw film spool. We're going to place the film in here so that the take-up spool is on the left and the lead spool is on the right. So we've got all of our supplies on the right, take-up spool is on the left. And we just fit it down into the camera, and you can see right here that there's a little slip. That's where you're going, the space in between the camera Obscura and the back plate. There's no glue there, so you should slip it in very easily. You can see it real nicely right there. Once that's in, like that, you're looking good, you're going to go ahead and put the top on it. We've got our equipment there. We see our bottom keys are flat, and they just aid in letting it sit flat on a table or something. And our top keys, these are a little bit long. I'm going to make them shorter. And now you see my shutter's closed. Also, the shutter open. Shutter closed and open. Finally, we're going to wind it onto the back, looking at the film indicator right there. We keep winding until we see the arrow. We're using the left winding key from our perspective to wind. Then we begin to see the Kodak logo go through. Then we begin to see the little 1 pop up. That lets us know that we're on frame 1. That's when we would take a photo. After we were done, we would wind on to frame 2. That's where we would go. So guys, I'm Robert Ham. We've been going over in 20 minutes, twice as long as what I thought it would take to actually put together PinBox. But I hope that you've enjoyed this. It takes me roughly 45 minutes to put together PinBox. Once I'm finally done, it just takes me about 45 minutes to put it together. What am I saying? Hope you've enjoyed that as a sneak peek. Robert Ham with Robert Ham Photography. You can catch me over at Hand Camera, which is where you know me better from. I don't know why I plugged my other place there, but it happens. I want to thank you for watching and remind you that I'll catch you on the flip side.